So, you guys, what's up with that? I just asked my husband, and so the story goes when the groundhog sees his shadow today, then it's gonna be 6 more weeks of winter or 6 more weeks or spring early. Okay, help me out, you guys, because I tried to look it up and it looks like everybody is saying something else. Okay, hold on. I have my iPad here, but the volume is still up, so let me just put it on mute, and then I'm sure you guys have the answer. Okay, Debbie says spring early. So when the groundhog sees his shadow, it's gonna be spring early. That's good for you guys on the mainland, right? So that means not much longer winter, spring early. Very good. So for me here, it rained all night. I mean, it's still, it's still relatively warm. So it pretty much feels like being in a sauna. I mean, I feel like I could touch the air. It's so humid, you guys. That's crazy. Well, it's good for the skin though. So, I'm not complaining. However, for today's painting session of this little cute guy, this EEV bird, I think I might have to use the hair dryer a bit more often because watercolor just does not dry in this humid climate. That's a fact. All right, so let me just talk real quick about the challenge, just as a little reminder in case you don't know what's going on. So welcome to this month's Aloha 24 challenge. I have a wonderful co-host this month as well, and I think she's already in the chat. Let me check. Her name is Tanya. On Instagram, she's known as Miss Nice Day, and she's from Munich, Germany, and I have met her a few times already. She's actually a good friend of mine. So let me see. Yeah, I think I saw her name pop up there. Yeah, I would like to say that she is a fantastic illustrator. So what I really admire about Tanya is that you can just give her a word or any kind of animal and she can just draw it. Just like that. It's just crazy. So I'm really honored and very happy that she joins us this month for the challenge. The theme of this month is Hawaiian birds, specifically Native Hawaiian birds that only occur here on the Hawaiian Islands, nowhere else in the world. I will provide 2 tutorials this month, and Tanya will also provide 2 tutorials this month. And for next week, we're also going to have a live stream together here on YouTube. So I have to say, Tanya usually speaks German and all her live streams are usually in German, but she said she's gonna try and do it in English for all of you guys so that everybody can watch. Okay, that's gonna be next week, next Friday. But today we're gonna, hold on. We're gonna paint the EEV bird. All right, let me just quickly talk about the EEV. So I have this wonderful book here by, I think, yeah, Jim Denny. It's called Birds of Hawaii. And fortunately, the EEV, this one here, is actually one of the birds that is less critically endangered. This is kind of important to say because sadly most of the native Hawaiian and especially the forest birds are pretty much on the brink of extinction. However, with this one, it occurs here on my island, the Big Island, and on Oahu. I think in one more, I'm not entirely sure. I think it says so here. Kauai, Maui, and the Big Island, so not on Oahu. So we still have what they estimate a few hundreds of thousands of EEV birds. So just in comparison, one of my other favorite birds, the kiwikiu, they have like, they think they're like 100 left, like 100. So that bird's gonna go extinct in the next few years, is what they estimate. With this one, if you're lucky, and I have been lucky one time and I actually saw one. So we have a wonderful bird trail here on the Big Island, which is fenced in so that the wild pigs can't get into the area. And they have a lot of birds there still. This one too, for example, the apapane. What's very distinctive about the EEV is not just the color, which is incredibly red. I don't think it actually, that the photo gets the color right. It's even more bright. Oh, hi! Oh, you again. Oh, hi, 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 hi. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, sweetie. All wet. Hello. Hello. Hi. Hey, my little. Okay. Sorry about that. If I don't pick her up, it's gonna be protest and whining and all that. So, here, look at the beak, the bill. It is super skinny and curved. So this bird is specialized on eating nectar from Native Hawaiian flowers in trees. Yeah, it also eats little insects like spiders and such. So the diet is a bit more versatile. I actually read, and this is interesting, that this bird used to eat specific Hawaiian flowers from trees, but because these became so rare, it changed to eating other flowers, which it's interesting, isn't it? Change of diet. It's like, I don't know, becoming a vegetarian or something, you know? You like make the choice to eat different food. Okay, so I wanted to recommend to you a website that not only gives you all the interesting facts about Hawaiian birds, but also shows you how they sound. And let me tell you, the Evie makes hilarious sounds. I mean, they have these chirps, but they also sound like a rusty door hinge. I'm not kidding, it is so funny. So underneath this video, in the description, I have the website's name. I think it's Maui Forest Birds. I'm not entirely sure. I'm sorry, I can't remember. But it's in the description down below. And please check it out. It's so interesting. And you can hear all the recordings of all the Native Hawaiian birds too. So I can highly recommend that you check this out. Okay, so enough introduction. I'm gonna turn the camera around and we're gonna get painting. All right, you guys. So you know the drill. It's gonna be shaky a little bit. Okay, let me turn the camera around. Here we go. Okay, I have to actually take it out of the holder. Here we go. And flip my phone holder. Okay. Almost there, you guys. Just always have to be super careful not to touch the on-off button on my phone, of course. Here we go. All right. I'm gonna rearrange everything a little bit so you can see what's going on. Okay, I also have the chat open and I'm gonna just have a little look what you guys are all talking about. Hi, Mama. Hi, Melly, Alina. Ah. Hi Michi. Und Sylvie und Dorit. Ah, super. Hallo, hallo zusammen. Hello, everybody. All right, I'm just going to put my hair together so it doesn't fall into the frame all the time. And let's start with talking about today's supplies. So I have, first of all, my beautiful book, handmade sketchbook with arches paper, or arch. It always makes me laugh. Arch paper, and this book was made by Dunies from Art Moments. So today we're gonna paint the EEV here on the left-hand side. So this is my paper. Honestly, you don't need 100% cotton paper for this project. I mean, this is more an illustration, a style, painting. Last month we did a lot of like layering for this one, even for this one with the layering of the pattern. So for that one, it was really good to have 100% cotton paper, I'd say. But honestly, for the EV today, not really necessary. You could go and just use wood pulp paper, for example. Might even work on mixed media paper. Then I have watercolors. And as always, I would like to encourage you to use whatever you have at hand. So if you want to use Aloha watercolors, I'm gonna quickly tell you the names of the colors. This is Mango, Ohia. Ohia is, by the way, the tree from which this bird eats the nectar of the flowers. So I thought this is fitting to use for this bird. Then Ice Queen, it's a light turquoise. We have Opera Pink, very bright, strong, almost neon-like pink. Kupu Kupu, it's the name of a Hawaiian fern. It's a lime green. Then we have Shark, that's black. Cocoa, that's a burnt umber. And Kohola is synthetic indigo. Kohola is the Hawaiian name for the humpback whale. Okay, so put these to the side, and then I'm just gonna use a few colored pencils. I'm probably gonna use one of my new favorites that Sabrina sent me from Switzerland, Caran d'Ache Fluorescent Neon. Just love this one. Only for the for the flower garland, the lei here. And then a few other colors. I think I'm just really gonna grab them as I go. The colored pencils are mostly going to be for adding some shadows and texture and detail. So I'm just gonna look at what's already there and then grab the color accordingly. Excuse me, I'm not sure what's up. Usually my husband does all this. See, that's it. Yeah, drives me nuts. But now I'm doing it myself, so I can't complain, right? Let me have a sip of tea. Okay, all right. What are you guys talking about? So Melly's asking Sylvie about those crazy UV pens. Ooh, are you guys talking about the Sakura UV jelly roll pens? Those are really cool. If you're talking about those, I can say those are really cool and they work. But I digress. Okay, so let's start with looking at this bird. So if you have the sketch that I made, you will have noticed that I made a few circles and ellipses so that it's easier for you to find the shape of the bird. I mean, the bird, for me, is pretty simple to draw because I draw birds a lot. I think birds and cats are probably the animals I draw the most. But if you have trouble, always break down the animal that you want to paint in the most simple shapes that you can find. So I'd say for this EEV bird, you have a big oval here encompassing the beak and the head. And then of course another one for the body. You can look here at the tail as being a triangle, and even the wing here, another triangle, just in the other way. So I'm gonna just sketch this out for you real quick so you know what I mean. So you have a big oval here, and then within this oval you have another circle, or oval I should say, for the head. And then you can draw the beak within your bigger oval or ellipse here. Then you add another oval for the body, triangle for the tail, and another triangle for the wing, and the legs. Let me go a bit closer so you can see this better. Right now I'm just drawing in my sketchbook. This is not going to be the final sketch that I'm gonna color later. Ah, servus Sonja. Hello, hello. Okay, I just saw over in the chat that you guys were actually talking about other pens. Dry text markers. Ah, okay, like colored pencils. Koh-i-Noor. Ah, cool. And they react to black light or UV light? I think honestly, you guys, whatever neon you use, so it doesn't matter. You can even use, you know, if you use my neon watercolors, or I'd say if you use any kind of art material that has neon pigments, it will react to UV light. So, you know, disco style. So you could try this pretty much with anything neon that you have, just as a tip. Okay, back to our little illustration here. So I wanted to point out that birds actually have longer legs than you would think. I'm always surprised when I see, or when I look at photos of birds and I realize, you know, I would have probably just given them tiny, tiny little feet, but their legs are much longer. I mean, I don't want you to, you know, obviously paint some giraffe legs on your bird, but just bear in mind that the legs might be a tad longer than you would think. So when you found the general shape of the bird, you can either also add the little decorative elements that I thought up for this one, which is the party hat, you know, another triangle and a circle on top, and then the flower lei, which of course is just another ellipse or oval around the neck of the bird. For today's session, if you don't want to add all the party stuff here, you know, that's totally fine. You can, of course, just paint the bird as is without being in party mode. I totally understand. So I think Tanya and I just felt that we would like to make this month a bit fun and, you know, just paint the birds or illustrate the birds in a way that you might not see so often usually, especially not Hawaiian birds. Okay, so next I'm going to move over to my watercolor paper. And I don't think I mentioned the brushes that I will use today, which is probably due to the fact that I have not gotten the brushes ready yet. So let me see. I will for sure want to use kind of like smaller round brushes today. So I have a size 3 round brush here. That looks kind of beat up, that poor thing. And I think I might actually get, Yeah, maybe a size 6 and a size 1. Let's see if I have that somewhere. Okay, and a tiny one. Okay, here we go. So I have round brushes size 1, 3, and 6. Okay, I'm gonna move things around again a little bit, and let's start with our sketch of the bird. All right, working with such a small frame here in the video, I always have to make sure that everything is still in the picture and you can see fine. Okay, let me grab my mechanical pencil. This is a Uniball Mitsubishi Kurutoga mechanical pencil, and I talked about this all the time. I love it because it rotates the pencil lead while you draw, so it's always sharp, which is pretty cool. Okay, we start with the head, and then I'm sorry if you can't see that, because you know I'm gonna try and keep my pencil lines pretty light. And then I'm gonna make a bigger oval so I can include the beak, which will be here later. And then adding another oval here for the body. So if you're using square paper like I do, try to place your bird in the smack center of your paper, because we're gonna add the tail here and the branch here. If you use any kind of other size paper, you know, you just look at the whole drawing first and then try to find a good space for it on the paper. But of course, you know, if you make a sketch first, you can erase the lines and try again in case you run out of space on your paper. Okay, so we have oval number 1 for the head. This one is to include the beak, the body. We have the legs. Now we're gonna add the tail here. And the wing. It's another triangle. The party hat. Okay, so we have the bird, and now we're gonna add the branch. I start with the branch here from the legs. Just a little wonky line to indicate the branch that the bird is sitting on. And of course, you can shape the branch however you like, with little branches coming off of it or going off of it. And then you make one big swoop like this. And it's always good to know what the most comfortable angle for you to draw is. So usually when you do a line like this, you see how I have my hand almost like a hinge here, like this. So try this out, and of course this might not work for you. Maybe for you, you know, you're more comfortable drawing a circle like this. So you can try this out on a scrap piece of paper and just find out what suits you best. But I will tell you, there is always a best angle for you to draw things in. Hi Sabrina. Hello, hello. So I was gonna say something and I can't remember now. I got distracted. So I was saying there's always a best angle for you to draw in. I just really can't remember. It was something good. Well, maybe it'll come back to me later. Okay, now that we have our rough pencil sketch with the shapes, we can go in and refine the shapes and add some details of the bird. So the beak here, this is probably, next to the color of the bird, the most distinctive feature. So if you don't get this right away, or right away, just erase your lines and go over it again. Because yeah, I'd say if you get the beak right and then the color, you know, it's going to look like an EEV. All right. So here on the underside of the beak, you have this curved line, and then this goes pretty smoothly into the head like this. And now if you don't want to paint the garland with the flowers, you will continue your line down here, and then it curves a bit to the left again. Goes down here. Okay, so you have kind of like this question mark shape here for the bird. Of course, if you add the flower lei here, then part of the neck will be covered, which is super convenient because the neck area is a bit tricky, at least for me. So, and then for the upper side of the head, this is just a curved line that goes right into the flower lei. Again, if you don't want to paint the flower lei, kind of stop here, and then it's going to be a pretty sharp angle here going to the back. We're looking at this bird from an angle, so this is not entirely from the side or from the front. This is kind of like from an angle, and that's why, you know, the angles are like this. So the bird actually looks a bit squished, and this is because we're looking at it from the half side, so to speak. Okay, this is the tail. Then for the wing, we'll turn this triangle into more of a curved line here. And then for the feathers here at the end of the wing, just make a little ragged line here. This is going to be the part that's black. The other part here is just going to be red, so it kind of smooths into the rest of the body color. So don't concern yourself with drawing the whole wing perfectly. Now I'm here at the bottom with the legs. So here the line goes in a little bit, and then to the hind leg, or this leg here. I mean, birds don't have hind legs, right? Because they only have two. No hind legs here, Keiko. It's not a cat. All right. So I hope that you guys, if you're drawing or painting along, are happy with the shape that you found. If you can't get it right, you know, maybe it's not your day to draw, I have a sketch both in today's post over on Instagram, and if you are subscribed to my newsletter, I also sent out the sketch yesterday. And of course, you know, you can just follow the sketch. If you have a light box, you can just put the sketch under your paper and trace it, or you can use a window during the day and do the same thing. All right, next step is that I'm gonna try and find an eraser so I can just go over these lines and make them a little less visible. Because I know that you guys all know that because you are watching my live streams. But once you paint over pencil lines with watercolor, there's no erasing the pencil lines anymore. So we'll erase as much as we can now. I have this great kneadable eraser. I'm just gonna roll over my drawing. and take up as much of the pencil line that I want. Of course, you know, I still want to see what I'm doing, so just gonna erase it a little bit. And if you oh Leo, no, oh, you. So the bigger dog just jumped on my lap. I don't have space for you here, boy. Oh. Go play with James. Okay, so here in the connecting parts, you can actually erase the pencil lines completely. So, you know, here, pretty much just the outlines of the shapes that we started with, those can go away. We really just want the outlines of the bird itself. Okay, this is looking pretty good. So what I was going to say is, if you like to work with outlines, fine liner or color pencil outlines, then of course, you know, don't worry too much about erasing all the pencil lines perfectly, because you can just go around and emphasize those lines later on. In my painting, I didn't really work with outlines, so I wanted to make sure that the pencil lines are not visible anymore. But again, you can just work with outlines, and then that's going to be making your life a lot more easy, of course. All right, so let's start with coloring. I have a ceramic palette here that I also forgot to mention. You can, of course, also just work with going right into the pan, and I almost dipped my pencil in my tea, so I'm gonna put my tea on the left side and my water containers on the right side. Okay. So I'm dipping my paint brush in water, and from my color palette I'm gonna start with this vermilion orange. If you don't have vermilion orange at hand, you can easily mix it by using red and yellow, for example. I mean, you don't have to use a vermilion orange at all. Anyways, you can just make the bird in a bright red, or use fantasy colors. I mean, you know, for all I care, feel free to do that. Okay, we're gonna start with the head. I am right-handed, so it's always good to start, for me at least, at the left side of the painting. If you're left-handed, you might want to start on the other side. Or you could do your, you know, your drawing. You could flip the drawing. So I kind of forgot to sketch in the eye. So I think for all animals, and also when you draw humans, it's always good to make a point in emphasizing the eyes, because they're, you know, they're really important. They talk to us. They're very expressive. So I think the reason why I just didn't think of it is that lately I have been practicing drawing and also painting without sketching. So I'm really going for a very, very loose style, very quick drawing, you know, without thinking about it much. Which is, it's great practice, but I can see that, you know, I just totally forgot to finish my sketch here. I'm switching to my number 3 round brush, and then I have only water on my brush, and I'm dragging the color of the head into the beak. So interestingly enough, the coloring of the beak for this EEV bird is also really bright, but it's more of a yellowish orange. So once you drag your color over from the head, you can just add a little bit of yellow and, you know, kind of like dab it into the beak here, and it'll just melt in with the orange. All right, and we'll have a very smooth transition here. Now, of course, as I mentioned before, I'm using 100% cotton paper, which makes the blending really nice. But you should be able to pull it off too, even if you don't use cotton paper. Continuing with the body of the bird, I'm still using pure vermilion orange here. And I am leaving some white space here for the flower lay. And I'm also trying to make this edge here, where I'm painting right now, a bit ragged. So it's going to look a bit more natural when I add the flowers and leaves later. Then this is the wing area. The wing's going to be black here on this side. So if you don't get this edge right, don't worry, because we can just paint over it with black. And just follow your pencil sketch to fill out the body color. Don't make the line here on the outside too smooth, because, you know, they are feathers and they can be a bit more rough like this. I mean, birds actually usually, they look very smooth, don't they? Feathers are just so perfect. I always admire the construction of the feather. It's incredible. I mean, not just the fact that they can fly, you know, those birds, but also when you look at the feather, it seems so fragile, but it can withstand so much. That's really amazing. Okay, so I've reached the legs of the bird. I'm switching to my smaller round brush again. It's full of water, but not too wet. And I'm gonna do the same technique as I did up here with the beak. So you drag the color into the legs. The color is gonna get thinner and thinner because I'm not reloading with paint. I'm just using what pigment I can gather from the body and dragging it down to paint the little claws here. And same on the other side. Guess I should have, yeah, I should have probably painted the claws a little more curved because they're gripping the tree, the branch. But that's okay. I can just change the shape of my branch later so it looks more natural. And same as with the head, I'm gonna pick up a little bit of yellow and just dab it into the leg area, the foot area here while the paint is still wet. And it's gonna blend beautifully with my vermilion orange. All right, you guys. Anybody else painting along today? I think Melly just said earlier that she's too tired. Over in Germany, it's already nighttime. I know that. So some of you might maybe just be watching. But yeah, if you're painting along, let me know how it goes. If you have any questions, or if you know what you find is really tricky. For me, it's always good to know what gives you trouble, you know, when we do these live streams, so I can maybe focus on it more and explain it more. So yeah, let me know how it's going. Yay, Ulrika's painting. Debbie's painting too. That's great. And Sabrina just said that she loves my ceramic palette. Yeah, it's really pretty. It's a Monstera leaf. Honestly, I think I got this off of Amazon. So this year, as you might have seen me or heard me talk about, I will try a few new art techniques, so to speak. One was bookbinding, which I'm totally in love with. So this is definitely something I will pursue on a larger, I will pursue this year for sure. And the other thing is I'm going to take a ceramics class in February. And I hope that I will learn how to not only make cute jars and stuff, but hopefully also how to make my own painting palettes. So yeah, let's see how that goes. I just added a little bit like a red triangle here on top of the body of the bird. All right. So how about you guys? Are you planning to learn something new this year? Or do you have aspirations to maybe learn a new art technique this year? Or are you more focused on developing a certain art skill that you already have? You know, maybe you really want to get into watercolor painting, get better at that and focus on that. So I think I have the tendency to just want to do everything at the same time. So I always have to be a bit careful not to put too much on my plate. So I'm simultaneously trying to pace myself and also, not to hold back too much, because I just love everything craft and art. I'm looking over at the chat and Melly is saying she wants to focus on portraits and loose florals. And you can combine those too. I mean, I think loose florals and portraits, super beautiful together. And I'm still looking at the chat. Yay, Angela's painting with us too. And Dorit. Super. Alina is like me. Okay, she wants to learn everything. Yep. I mean, honestly, guys, the bookbinding class, that was such a game changer for me this year. And how wonderful that it happened at the beginning of the year. I am so stoked. I'm so inspired. And I've tried binding little small journals, and I totally enjoyed that. And I've been binding so-called junk journals for a longer time now, where I kind of just use little papers, scrap papers that I keep. And this is so enjoyable. But in the class I took, it was a professional bookbinding course, and it's just a different level, I'd say. And I kind of, I wasn't sure if I would really enjoy it, because it felt like it's probably going to have a lot of rules, feels kind of rigid. You have to really make sure you get all the little details right, and the millimeters, you know what I mean? Like, you have to be super exact when you work, and that's usually not my style. I'm more of a pasto. I'm more of a person that, just puts it together spontaneously and then hope it'll work. But I was surprised how much I enjoyed the process. And of course, I already figured out a few methods to maybe create like my own type of books. So not go through the whole full process, because I don't have a bookbinding press and all the other huge machinery that is very handy for making books. So yeah, I think I'm gonna come up with my own little book projects. All right, so while I was telling you about my fascination with bookmaking, I started to paint in the little triangles here, and I can't remember the word for this party decoration item. So if you remember that word, you can tell me. It's like I don't know, is it a banner maybe? A party hanger banner? So when you paint in those triangles and you're using a lot of water, make sure that the triangles don't touch each other, otherwise you're gonna have blends all over the place. So I'm not sure if you can see that, but I left like a millimeter gap in between those triangles. I'm sorry I'm saying this so late. I hope you haven't already, had this problem of wild blends where you don't want them. If you do, there's always this method of rinsing your brush, slightly drying it, and then, kind of picking up the pigment off the paper. And I'm looking over at the chat again, what's going on. Oh, Sylvie wants to know what James said about... James, did you like the sketchbook that I made for you?
No.
Okay,
Love it.
Yeah, he loves it. Okay, he always does that. He's so silly. When I ask him if he likes something, he says no, he loves it. And Sabrina wants to learn lettering. Oh, I thought you can already letter. Oh wait, that's true. I've never seen you letter. I've only seen your paintings. Ah, well, I have to tell you, lettering is absolutely fascinating, and it's actually the thing that started me back on my art journey. So, of course, I can highly recommend learning to letter. It's just, I think, fascinating because you can also combine it so well with painting, and it gives the whole thing, I don't know how to say it. It's just a great way to add to all your paintings. So yes, I highly, highly recommend that you learn lettering or encourage you, I want to put it this way, to learn lettering. And Sabrina also wants to try bookbinding and pottery. And her daughter is practicing to draw eyes and mouths and faces. Wow, yeah, I think that's a different level, right? I mean, painting houses, flowers, plants, and birds is one thing, but painting humans, that's tricky. Okay, I'm just pouring myself another cup of tea, and let's see. Okay, everybody's laughing at me. Or is it laughing about James? Hope it's James, not me. Okay. So, as I said, very high humidity today. So I don't think my layer is dry yet, even though it looks dry. So, let's look at where else we can paint that's not touching other areas, which would be the little hat, party hat. Gosh, I can't believe how I'm not remembering words today. Der pom-pom. How do you say pom-pom in English? Anybody knows? The festive, cute ball at the top of the festive party hat. Really? It's pom-pom in English too? So maybe I'm getting the German wrong here. Der Pom-Pom-Bommel. Okay, as you can see, starting from the center, I'm just making little swooshes, swishes, swashes with my brush for the pom-pom bommel. Okay. All right, you know what? I think I have to go and do one round of hair dryer, and I'll be right back. I'm gonna put this to the side. Okay, be right back. All right. Okay, first layer is dry. Let's go to the next step. So as you can see, what I usually try when I do watercolor illustrations like this is I look at what I want to paint, and then I paint all the parts that don't touch each other so that I avoid the colors to run into each other and blend in a way that I don't want them to blend. You know, it was different with the legs and the beak here because that was all planned, so to speak. So when you want to draw or paint something, you can make your sketch first and then kind of just, you know, look at your sketch and figure out which parts you can paint, which parts won't touch each other, what you can paint first. And then you can kind of make your own step-by-step tutorial in your head. So I have pure black now on my brush here, which is actually very rare for me. I usually don't use pure black in paintings. It's just a personal preference of mine. And I think it's also the reason why I decided to add indigo to my black. So I'm grabbing some of my indigo here and dabbing it into the black that's already on the paper. Also up here. Now, if you like, you could do this part wet on wet, which means you could lay down a layer of water first and then just drop in the black and the indigo paint. I'm working pretty much wet on dry today, which means I'm not pre-wetting the paper before I paint. Okay, I'm just kind of pushing the indigo back and forth a little so it mixes with the black. Another reason I decided to use indigo for this part of the feather is that it's so black that when you look at photos of the EEV, sometimes this part, the black part, looks almost blue in the light or in the reflection of the sunlight. It's very beautiful. But it's such a deep black that it almost looks blue sometimes. Just looked over to the chat again. That's cute. So Melly says that her son says, well, how do I translate that? It's like he would say pum pum instead of pom pom, but he says it in German. So very cute, Bummelmütze. Very cute. Okay, I'm gonna call it Bummel now too. My mom says that this is her favorite color. Yeah, true that. She has clothing with this color and it goes really well. You look great in this color, Mama. Okay, and Mishi has to go. Michelle, I have a nickname for Michelle. I call her Mishi, but it's kind of like, you know, it's like an insider. Sorry, Michelle. Thanks for joining us today. Tschüss. Oh, and I'll see you tomorrow, yeah, for the Cherry Blossom Festival over in Waimea. I mean, it's raining here like crazy. I'm not sure if it's gonna happen. So you guys, it's fascinating because usually cherry trees, I mean, they bloom in like what, maybe March or April, right? I mean, I remember from my trips to Japan that usually you would get ready around March or April to see the beautiful cherry trees blossom. But of course, you know, our climate here in Hawaii is different. So first of all, I was super amazed to learn that we have cherry trees here, you know, for starters. I'm like, what, really? So it looks like that here on the Big Island, about 80 years ago, the small island of Okinawa, which is the southernmost island in Japan, sent over, I don't know, like 80 cherry trees. So 80 Japanese cherry trees. And they sent them to a place more in the north of this island where it's generally a bit cooler. And apparently these trees go off every year in the beginning of the year. So right now, pretty much. And so they created a cherry blossom festival with Japanese arts and foods, and I mean, I have to go. But it's tomorrow, and as I said, it's just been raining so much. So I really hope it's gonna happen. 'Cause I would love to have some freshly pounded mochi. Oh, hi Tracy. Aloha. Ah, Tracy says there's sakura in Wahiawa. Oh, really? Can you tell me where that is? Is that on Oahu? I guess I just never paid attention to that. I just was kind of surprised to yeah, to see that we have cherry trees here. Okay, I filled out the stripes of the party hat, and let's look at our bird. So these two parts here are dry, the two red parts, which means we can start painting the lei, the flower garland. So it might seem counterintuitive, but for this part I'm actually going to use the biggest round brush that I'm using today, which is the size 6, because I kind of want to do this in a more loose style. So let's grab our lime green. And for this one, I'm not going to use the ceramic palette. I'm just going to go in straight from the pan onto the paper and then just, see? Fast strokes. Boom, boom, like this. And no matter if you touch the red or you go into the red a little bit, it's all good, it's all fine. I think it actually looks a bit more natural that way. Make sure you don't touch the black parts of the birds because those are still wet. Okay, I'm looking over at the chat and Tracy just said, okay, yeah, it's on Oahu. Upper where it's colder. So yeah, I guess that's what cherry trees need. They need, at least for a part of the year, a bit of a colder weather, I guess. Excuse me, I really don't know what's going on today. I picked up some of my Ice Queen light turquoise and I'm gonna go in while the other green is still moist. So no worries about blends here. I actually want my two shades of blue and green to mix here. Leave a little bit of white. Don't fill out the garland completely because we want to add a little bit of yellow to indicate some flowers. If you already painted everything, don't worry. because in the last step I will go over all of this with color pencil, and we can add some more flower details later on. But right now I'm just filling most of the white space with some yellow paint. I would also encourage you to leave a few of these white spots in between. I think it just looks more fluffy, it looks more natural. So don't worry about filling in all of the little white space in between. Alrighty, now we're gonna paint the branch next. And as I mentioned before, I have to change the shape a little bit because of how I painted the claws, the feet of the bird. Oh, hold on. I see that I missed a little bit up here. You know what? I think I'm just gonna paint this red. Just fill it in with a little bit of red. In order to avoid the drying edge here, you can just paint over all of the red part with the fresh paint. Kind of try to blend it. You can scrub the paper a little bit. You can scrub better if it's cotton paper. If it's not cotton paper, just be careful you're not picking up too many paper fibers if you have to do something like this. Yeah, my mom just said everything from Japan is so delicious and so nice. I agree. I absolutely love Japanese food. This is my go-to. And unfortunately, a lot of the favorite foods of mine are kind of tricky to make. I mean, you know, for me, I'm okay in the kitchen, but I like painting more. It's the truth. So I can cook, but I prefer that, somebody else cooks for me. But anyways, like for example, it's like sushi are not hard to make, but it's still so time consuming. Or, I mean, like bento boxes. Again, super fun, but all these little tiny dishes. So my go-to is usually just some rice and, miso soup, maybe some pickles, and then of course I love all the stuff that here in Hawaii is also really popular and that originally hailed from Japan, like teriyaki and chicken katsu. Yummy. So while I am getting really hungry here talking about Japanese food, you can see that I'm changing the shape of my branch while I go. I picked up some of my burnt umber. It's Cocoa is the name of the Aloha watercolor. And just filling in the branch in a way that it makes sense with the shape of the feet of the bird. Okay. I was just thinking that there is actually a few dishes in Japan that are not too tricky to make and super nice to eat, like sukiyaki or, different kinds of nabe, which are kind of like soup, huge pots with just different ingredients, and you cook it and it's so yummy. I kid you not, guys, my stomach is like grrr, grrr. I'm getting hungry. So I think I'm not alone with the food craziness here. I just looked over to the chat and Alina said that she thought I said ice cream for this color instead of ice queen. Honestly, I think this could be ice cream. Do you guys remember the first time you saw blue ice cream as a child? And it was like the coolest thing, and it was actually pretty gross. I think in Germany we call it the Schlumpf-Eis, which is a Smurf ice cream in English. Was it just vanilla flavor? I mean, I know they used blue dye to dye the ice cream, but I think the flavor was so boring. Just vanilla, right? Okay, let's look at our birdie again. I think we have actually, except for the eye, we have all the watercolor part down. Just one thing. So in this original painting, I actually did a second layer for the red part of the bird to emphasize some of these shadow areas here. So yeah, you know what? I think I want to show you how that's done. So let's do this with a clean brush. So you rinse your brush. There's only water on my brush. This is the size 6. Very carefully go over the red part of your bird. Now you have to be very gentle. If you rub too hard, you're just gonna stir a lot of the red pigment and maybe even drop it into the black part. So just very carefully wet the red part. Then I'm picking up some of my bright red orange. And I'll drop it in here. Oops, that just happened. Which is good because now I can show you how to lift this little red dot that I accidentally made. Okay, so I'm dabbing in some red paint in areas that will be shadow areas. I'm going to do the same thing with the head. So I just rinsed my brush. I'm now dabbing the head just with a little bit of water and dropping in some red paint here at the bottom left. All right. So don't worry if this looks terrible right now. It will dry lighter and it will blend naturally. So if you still feel that, you know, yours looks, it's a bit too much, maybe you dropped in too much red and it just looks really terrible, you can pick up some of the red with a brush that you previously rinsed and dried a little bit on your paper towel or on your cloth. And you know, you can also just totally leave out this step. You don't have to add a second layer here on the body. It's totally fine if you don't, because you will go in later anyways with colored pencil to add some details. Okay, so now for this little accident here, I'm rinsing my brush. It's pretty wet now. I'm just rubbing over my orange spot here until it's very, very light. Then I'm gonna rinse my brush again. I'll dry it here on my little cloth. And then I'll just try and pick up the rest of my red pigment and water here. Just repeat it until you're happy. Now there are some paints that are extremely staining, all the phthalo, phthalo blue, phthalo green, turquoise, different other colors, and you might not be as lucky to lifting the paint. So usually, don't wait. If you're making, if it happens, you should just right away try to lift it. Or, of course you can turn it into something else. If you just have, I don't know, like a drop of paint here, just turn it into some foliage, some leaves, lettering. Lettering always saves the day. Okay, I think we are ready to paint on the eye and then add the colored pencil. However, because I added some water and paint here in the head area, I have to just make sure that everything's really dry before I paint on the eye. Okay, but first, let me just refine this shape here, this shape around the eye. Right now it looks has too many edges. I want it to be a bit more smooth and round. So with my small round brush, I'm going in there and just rubbing around the edges to make them a bit more smooth. Eevee birds have a yellow ring around the eye. Let me see if I can, if the picture in the book is good enough to see that. I removed my bookmark and I'm not sure where it was. Let's see here. Yeah, it's kind of hard to see. Let me go real close. You see how that is it's a bit yellow here around the eye. So usually I would usually wait until everything is dry. But I don't mind if the yellow blends a little bit with the red here. So I'm just gonna paint a tiny, tiny amount of yellow around the eye here. Okay. All right, I'm gonna go and dry all this with my hair dryer and I'll be right back and then we'll start with the color pencil part. So you can see now how the red part kind of prettily blended into the first layer of red. Let me just rearrange things here a little bit. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna put my watercolors to the side and grab my colored pencils. So as you can see, I have a whole bunch. I have two different jars. This is for regular colored pencils and this is for watercolor pencils, meaning that these are water soluble and these aren't. If you want to go over your watercolors while they're still a bit moist or wet, then you can use water soluble colored pencils without ripping the paper. They actually work really well when the paper is wet. That's what they're made for, right? They're made for working with water. hence the name, water-soluble pencils. If you want to work with regular colored pencils, make sure that the paper is completely dry. Otherwise, you'll just tear it up. Okay, I generally prefer water-soluble colored pencils because of the fact that they are super smooth and you can add a lot of texture. If you are more of a, if you like more fine details, then I would suggest that you go with the regular color pencils. And some colors, like neon colors, for example, I don't think they come water soluble. Maybe they do, I haven't seen those yet. So that would be another reason to just go with regular colored pencil. So I'm just grabbing a few colors here, looking for my indigo here, maybe some brown, and because I want a lot of texture on the tree branch, I will go to my water soluble side of the color pencil and look for something that's not purple. Grab the purple again. I have some, is that the same one? I think almost. Okay, let's see. I have another little jar with color pencils that are already kind of short, like this one. More purple. I love purple. Okay, I do have a water-soluble brown color pencil, but I have no idea where it is. Well, that's fine. I'm just gonna use a regular one. Okay. Ooh. Ooh. Oh. How about using this nice metallic one that Sabrina sent me from Switzerland alongside the neon ones? I'll use that as well. Okay. But I forgot to paint in the eye. So let's do that first before we start with the color pencil. If you have shaky hands today, you can of course draw in the eye with colored pencil. I think in general we have more control when we draw with pencil rather than brush. I mean, it's just a matter of practice, of course. But feel free to paint in the eye with a colored pencil or even a fine liner. Absolutely fine. So for the eye, we paint everything black except for a little white highlight. So I'm using a very small brush. This is a size 1. And I'm filling out the space here with black and just leaving a little circle here on top for the highlight. Okay, here we go. And now we're ready to go over everything with color pencil. Let's start at the top. Okay, so I was just looking at the chat. So Kasvea says that I did paint my own version of this cute guy. That's good. Yay. And doesn't want to go over it with color pencil before it's dry. Yeah. Seriously, be careful with that. I would definitely wait till everything is dry if you use regular color pencil. And you're very welcome. I love live streams. I say this every time, don't I? It's just really fun for me. So what I'm basically doing is I'm just going over a few spots here that I already painted yellow. And especially in the areas where I think the yellow is not visible enough, just gonna go over those little spots and just try and emphasize the yellow watercolor spots here. And of course you can add a few more details at random here. I'm going to grab my neon pink. And naturally, if you blend it with the yellow, it'll be a bit more muted. So it's gonna turn up and look more orangey. But in the parts where the paper is still white, it's gonna just show up real nice and add some pizzazz to the flowers of the garland here. And you can keep this as loose or as precise as you like. So you can actually draw in real flowers, you know, flower shapes, or you can just do blobs. I personally am a big fan of blobs, so I'll do blobs. I like how full this looks. Look, it's totally different than the original one, which was more like a small, skinny lei. This is like a 3-row full party lei. Ole. Okay, I'm adding a little bit of yellow to the beak here. And then grabbing my red and emphasizing the nostril here and the here where the two parts of the beak meet. And then adding a bit of shadow here behind the eye, kind of like a huge eyeliner, or eyeshadow, I should say. And where I previously dropped in some additional red, I'm just gonna go over it one more time with my red pencil. If you want even more of a shadow, you can take a darker color and very lightly go over this area here one more time, but that's optional. You'll create quite a bit of contrast when you do that, and if it's a bit too much, then just leave out this step and you can create kind of a similar effect that's a bit more light by using the same color that you used with the watercolor. Okay, let's continue to this part here. So I still have my red. Just gonna go over the red part here. Just emphasizing the shadows. And then with my indigo, if you have brown, you might want to use brown because it's a bit closer, I think, to this particular red color. And not, you know, I have like a dark, this is a castle brown, it's similar to Van Dyke, so this is super dark. But I say if you have a brown pencil like this color here, like an umber or so, it might look really nice to use for a shadowing color for this part of red of the bird. Okay, and then for the wing, adding a few strokes here to indicate the feathers. And just scribbling on top of the watercolor for some more texture. If you're working with a very rough textured cold press watercolor paper, you're going to be able to create some really interesting textures. And if you work with hot press and very smooth paper, you know, the texture of the color pencil are not going to show up that much, because you can make a decision before you start painting, depending on what your preference is for texture. If you don't want texture, then just use a very smooth paper, and then the color pencil will show up more like a gradient, or like an additional, yeah, kind of like an additional gradient. It's gonna complement the watercolor in a very subtle way. And if you love texture, go for the rough paper. Okay, then for the branch, I'm using this cool metallic color. Let's see how that works. Kind of adding like a little shimmer shine. I can see it here, but I think I'm not sure the camera picks it up. Honestly, I think it's a bit too subtle for me today, so I'm gonna switch to my dark brown. And then on the underside of my branch, gonna add my dark brown pencil to indicate texture and also a shadow. Today I added all my shadows to the underside of the bird here, here and here, and then under the feathers, under the hat, and now I'm doing it for the branch too, which means of course that the light is coming from above, from the top. So we have highlights, lighter parts on top of the bird, and you know the part of the branch here on top is lighter than the part at the bottom. You can change this, of course. You can have the light come from any side that you like, and then accordingly on the opposite side is where you put your shadow. So if I had the light come in from here, from the left, I would have put all the shadows more onto this side. So by the way, Tanya, my co-host this month, she is such a pro. I mean, in general, but especially with shadows and adding shadows, it's just incredible. She just has that down. So if you guys are interested in this type of, in this part of watercoloring, you know, when it comes to adding shadows, I can make sure that I let her explain that a bit more in our live stream next week. And in general, you know, if you have questions of any kind regarding this watercolor and color pencil technique, you can always write to me and I'll try to answer in the next session. Okay, so I want to say something about the party hanger here. I actually am not really fond of the way I drew the cord here. I did this with indigo. I kind of find this, it almost looks like an outline, whereas for the rest of the drawing, the illustration, I didn't use outlines. So I'm kind of hesitating to put this line on there today, going across. So I think instead what I'll do is I will only add the cord here. This is such a coarse textured colored pencil. It's a Caran d'Ache Luminance. So actually for this one it might be better to use a regular colored pencil so I can get somewhat of a more crisp line here. Yeah, this looks funny. Okay. And then I can add some texture to my little triangles here. Let's get into neon pink. Yeah. I think I'm gonna do neon pink all around. Ooh, yeah, this looks cool. Makes it even more colorful. Okay, what do you guys think? I mean, I really kind of prefer the look of how it is now. Or do you think it looks unfinished? Let me know what you think. I kind of like it this way. The only thing I'm thinking is I could maybe add like little, you know, tiny pieces of string in between like this. Oh yeah. That doesn't look bad, right? Okay, Sylvia would do the line, maybe lighter. Yeah, or, I mean, seriously, what you think about this? Just little dots, right? Alina wouldn't. you guys. I think I like it like this. And also, you know, it gives you guys the chance to choose whether or not you want to do it, because now you can see both of them in comparison. So, whichever version you prefer, you can do it this way. Or you can try something totally different, of course. You can just use, as I said before, a little bit of fine liner and maybe go all over your illustration, you know. Just because this just because this month says watercolor and color pencil, of course, doesn't mean that you can't add fine liner. I mean, I want you guys to add whatever you want. The fact that I do this material combo prompt is just so that you can just try out some new stuff that you might not have tried before. And maybe this way, through this challenge, you find your new favorite material combo. I mean, that would be the dream. That would be absolutely great. If through this challenge you maybe tried something new and then find that you love it, I would be really happy. And you know, for me personally, because I'm doing watercolor and color pencil now all the time because of this challenge, I really love this combo. I love watercolor and color pencils. I also love watercolor and gouache, and I love watercolor and, you know, neocolor crayons. It's all different, but I really like the versatility of colored pencil. And you know, the smoothness of watercolor in combination. I think it's really just, yeah. You have so many options and possibilities. Okay, dots for the win. Yeah, I'm just looking over to the chat, and Tracy and Alina said they like the dots. Okay, good enough for me. I'm gonna leave it like this. Tracy says she has to paint another one now. Well, you already painted your EEV and it's so beautiful. You don't have to. You don't have to paint another one now. By the way, Tracy is the one, so here in the chat she shows up at Arctic Turn 001. She's the one who provided all the EEV photos that I had posted. So she was here on the Big Island and went on a photo trip on the bird trail I talked to you about, and got a few really cool pictures of the EEV birds. So thank you, Tracy, that we are allowed to use the photos as reference. That's super helpful. Okay, so I'm gonna turn the camera around real quick because we are done, and I'm gonna say aloha and goodbye. Hold on. It's gonna do the wiggly waggly bummel bummel, turning around of the camera. Okay. Oh, I think I don't need the stand. I'm just gonna turn it around. Hello. Okay, so you guys, as always, I hope you enjoyed the session. Don't paint the bird again if you don't want to. I mean, if you do, you know, try something cool, like you could flip the perspective, for example, you know, just, yeah. If you liked this live stream, you will love it next week, because next week on Friday, same time, but here on my channel, Tanya and I will paint a palila bird. It's another Hawaiian forest bird. It's mostly yellow and black, and she has a super cute tutorial, actually, with two cute little birds. So I am totally looking forward to that live session next Friday. Hi, little. Here's the dog again. Yes, if you can, please leave a comment here below the video. It could be something, you know, really short and sweet, but it helps me with my YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. I would be super happy. And I'll see you next Friday with Tanya here on YouTube. Until then, keep well and bye. Aloha. Bye, Mom. Bye, everybody. Tschüss. Aloha.